Hello and welcome back to Suspense Animation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas, and this is Dispatches from Elsewhere, Season 1, Episode 4, Fredwyn. Before we get into everything, let me take care of some business and we'll get to it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, you're going to see a video pop up here at the very end of this video. Basically, what YouTube does, takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and tries to match it as best as possible to one of the videos in my fast video library, and it pops it up there for you. Up here is going to be, excuse me, Westworld, Season 3, Episode 1 is what's going to be up there. If you also want to know when I'm going to be on again live, you can actually hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule up there. I change it out every Monday. It's also mirrored on my Facebook page as well. And speaking of Facebook, there's a Facebook group page where you guys can post stuff and talk amongst yourselves. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I also have a Patreon page, but I don't have any tiers set up as of yet. So there we go. Spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the episode. If you have not watched the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video you can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. So, yeah, this, we were going through the whole character studies of the different characters. Of course, we started with Peter, then Simone, then Janice, and now Fredwyn. And it really is a social engineering experiment, kind of. Even the TV show is here at this point, because you are starting to recognize whether or not you fit into one of these characters, and they're broad paint. They're painted fairly broadly, these characters, to the point where you're going to identify as one of the four of these characters. I know I identify now with Fredwyn on this because there's similarities and things like that, and I see that other people have identified. I've had people talk to us in the chat, with Peter, some with Simone, some with Janice. So you're going to identify with one of these people, and that's where we're at with this. And that's kind of good. And we're also getting the story moved along as we're getting these people being introduced to us as well. Yes, they all exactly, Josephine Tracy. They all have vulnerabilities, slight eccentricism, as you say, slightly eccentric, and there's all kinds of different things that are there that someone's going to latch on to and say, "Hey, that character is like me," and that's why they're doing this. And I kind of like this. So we get to see Octavia, the shareholders meeting from Fredwyn's point of view, what happened to him and him popping out of the trunk, Octavia meeting him with his bodyguards. And Fredwyn just tells him that he wants to know what the truth is. And the bodyguards just look at him and go, "Oh, he's a hardcore." And basically, a hardcore is someone who just doesn't, sucks the fun out of things, quite honestly, and just wants the answers for the most part. Doesn't have any fun, really. That's not me, by the way. Although sometimes I can be, but I'm not that much like a Fredwyn. So Fredwyn ends up locked in a closet for his, troubles there, and it's a special closet, and he gets himself out of it, of course, and finds out. He goes to the stage manager, and that's where he got the script, as he put it. Yeah, and we see he accidentally activated Commander 14's appearance in the shareholders meeting because he got the stage manager to actually say now, and that activated Commander 14's appearance a little earlier than it was supposed to be in the script. So we realize now that Commander 14 is part of the JeJune Institute's thing that's going on. It's part of the game, is really what it is. We kind of knew that at this point. So we get to the next morning of them all in the diner, and Fred would empty that powder into the water there, and Peter asking him what flavor is that, and Edwin says efficiency, which yeah, it was one of those things that kind of just threw me off. I'm like, efficiency flavor. It kind of made me laugh, to tell you the truth, because it was just weird. He gulps the thing down in one gulp, and just that it's kind of like the satisfaction, the only joy that he's getting out of this whole thing is gulping down this efficiency flavor of whatever it is he's drinking. Yeah, it's I do not have a canister of that powder. I really don't. I don't know what the hell that was. It just looked wrong, whatever it was. And then he goes into once Janice gets there, Janice is late, but obviously not late because Fredwyn already factored that into his timing of the meeting. And he has all his remarks written out of how he basically is presenting almost his ideas. And it's very dry. Um, and not very considerate, everybody. And we find out that Fredwyn is actually really fucking smart. He graduated from Brown University at 19, made his first million at 21, and he dealt in data, big data. As a matter of fact, he made money off of everyone's data, basically mining everyone's data. But the thing is, he found out that data was being consolidated. It was being pushed into the hands of one entity. He doesn't know who. He's been searching for this, and he goes, and it's not being pushed into one entity for money, but for power. And that's the puzzle he's been trying to solve, and he wants to know what it is. And he thinks that the JeJune Institute is probably that power, and he wants everyone else to come along with him and say yes. And the letter that Janice had lifted from Octavio's pocket in the previous episode has a list of names of people that were in the audience. And he says these are all the people that they already had pre-screened. They already had presentations like what Janice went through of their lives. They already had that set up. And so he already knew who Octavio already knew who he was going to pick out of the audience. So they go to the New Newology Network, which is on the letterhead, and it's an apartment building, an apartment actually. And they knock on the door, and a little girl answers, and they're not prepared for that. And she closed the door, and he knocks again, and a woman answers, and he just starts confronting this woman and kind of angrily. And she goes, "If you don't get out of here, I'm going to call the cops." And they grab Fredwyn and they're dragging him away. And as they're dragging him away, the woman just puts her finger to her lips and says, "Shh." And Fredwyn's the only one that sees this, and he goes, "Did you see? Take a look. Look, she knows. She knows what's going on." And yeah, it's just kind of feeding into his paranoia. And everyone just wants to take a beat at this point. They just really kind of want to settle down a bit. And Fredwyn plays along, goes, "Yeah, maybe we should just take a beat, play the game, all this stuff," and everyone leaves. And Janice basically tells Fredwyn, she goes, "You know what? You already had this thing planned out in your mind. You knew how this was going to play out. And if you had actually involved us in this and actually asked us if we wanted to go along this route with you, you might have actually, we would have gotten to decide on this, whether or not to do this." And he goes, "But you might not have you might not have gone with me." And she goes, "Yeah, but you never gave us a chance." And he's starting to learn this, about his teammates and stuff like that. And so she goes home, and they all go home to go to sleep. And we see Fredwyn's house, or Fredwyn's apartment, and he can't sleep. He prays, and we find out that he has problems sleeping for days at a time because his mind is always working. And he's like, "Fuck this. I'm gonna go and break into the theater. I'm gonna go back and see what clues I can find." So he goes and breaks back into the theater, and he starts retracing his steps in his mind as to what was going on. He sees the presentation that was going on with Janice, and as we pass by, and I actually saw this, and I just kind of let it go. I forgot to mention this in the last podcast about this in episode 3, that the gift tag on one of the gifts in Janice's wedding memory was glowing. And I remember seeing that and just like, I was like, whatever, maybe it was just the light or whatever. No, that was actually the clue. And he can't read it. He can't remember it because he wasn't paying attention to it. He was paying attention to the script that was in the book. And he goes, "But Janice knows. She saw it. she's the one that, I have to get this information from. So of course he goes to Janice's house late at night, and he meets Lev. And she says, Lev had a stroke the year before, and that her son Ben, who is out in Albuquerque, wants to move Lev into a home basically where he can get more care and things like that. And she really doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to leave him, uh, doesn't want to leave his side and all this stuff. And he bonds with her a little bit in that one. We get this kind of them having a little. He gets a little sympathy finally, we for Janice, and maybe making a little more of a human connection there. So he gets her to actually try to enter her memory palace, her mind palace, in order to do this, and he's walking her through it. And it's um, an interesting scene where we see her entering her mind palace, entering the ballroom, and seeing what Octavia was showing her, and she can't quite make out what the tag is on the wedding gift. And her younger self comes in and is talking to her, and she doesn't let Fredwyn know that this is what's going on, is that her younger self is actually helping her. Because she thinks basically that Fredwyn would think that's a little bit weird. He probably wouldn't, but hey, there we go. And so they see the tag and they start reading it out. Basically, it's pictures, and there's flowers in the corners, different numbers of flowers in those four corners, and then also three different pictures. And from that, Fredwyn is able to get an address and says the game is still on. We still have to go and do this. So my favorite scene is he conscripts Janice to gather up the other teammates by saying that she found this out. And first they go to Simone's house, of course, and Janice, trying to convince Simone, and Simone is not buying it at all. And she goes, "Are you being held hostage? Are you here against your will?" And she's like, "All right." So, he is a little bit crazy. He does draw us in, but we did find a clue. It's in Fishtown, and I'm inviting you to come with us, is what she says. And so, of course, they go over to Peter's, and Peter won't let them in the door. Uh, and then, convince him to come with them. And I love, they said, Peter says, "I'm sorry I didn't let you into my place." And he goes, "It just really isn't designed for guests. It isn't. It isn't built for guests." And she goes, "Well, what's it designed for?" And he goes, "Residents," which I thought was just, we have some really witty dialogue in this. It's really good. Um, and so of course they're telling Fredwyn, "You know what? It's not going to go like last time. You're not going to confront anybody that we go to this house. It's not going to happen." And she says, "Easy, Tiger." And he goes, "Nope, cheetah," because he is like a female cheetah where he's quick and stuff like that. So they end up getting to the house, and there's a hole they see in the street right in front of the house. And everyone's stepping over, "Watch the hole, watch the hole." And they tell Fredwyn this, but he steps on the hole. And it turns out that it's not a hole, it's actually a door, and it's a metal door that with a painting of a hole on top of it. And they open it up, and Peter says, "This is where Clara is. She's inside here." And that's where the episode ends. Um, and of course, we get the preview for next week. Looks like we're going to get Clara's story at this point, from what it looks like. And I'm hoping that's the case. I'm fairly sure that's what they're doing with this whole series, is that it's being told by character exposition, which is awesome. They're telling. I've never seen something like this where you're telling the story by telling these characters' lives, and then moving the story along that way. It's very, very unusual, but also it works for some reason. Painted by Acme, yeah, exactly, EJR. Um, so yeah, it was a very interesting episode. Not as good as some of the previous episodes, granted, but still it moved everything along. And really digging this series. This series is really good. It's got a lot of heart to it too. And I can't wait for next week. But yeah, we got confirmation now that Commander 14 is working with the JeJune Institute. So Yeah, there's that as well. So we're getting little clues along the way. Pardon me with my cough. Yeah. So what? Did everyone like it? On the fence about it? Kind of you know. But what is the Institute's play? Uh, I don't know, Josephine Tracy. That's a good question. I mean, um, what was it? I actually have it in my notes from last week that I had mentioned. Um, the original game that was played in San Francisco, the artist Jeff Hull talked about social re-engineering, and that's kind of what the whole game was all about initially. Was there was no point in it. There was no solving it. It was just social re-engineering of people having fun, people getting out and interacting with each other and having a weird time. And I think that might be what this is all about, is just um you know, having something weird to do with other people and working out these issues that you might have. And yeah, it's fairly interesting. So I don't think there's any point to the game other than being with other people, kind of thing at this point. And yeah. Yeah, I'm liking it too, Pen. And yes, I agree, it does have a little bit of a Legion feel to it. What if the Institute planned for Fredwyn doing all of this? That would be a nice, yeah, that would be interesting too. Well, obviously they did target certain people, um, because of all the different flyers that they had. Excuse me. Like the flyer that Peter went called wasn't the same one as the one that Simone called, and it wasn't the same one that Janice called, and it definitely wasn't the same one that Fredwyn called. They all called different. They all called the same number, but for different flyers. So I believe Janice's was to learn to dance in zero gravity or something like that. Uh, yeah, which seemed a bit weird. And yeah, and uh, I don't know what the other two were. They didn't really say. So yes, they are targeting people a bit. And maybe they already had all this information to begin with. Maybe Fredwyn is kind of right that it is somebody dealing with a mass amount of data and kind of screwing with them. We don't know where this TV show is going, or how the TV show is going to play this versus how it went in real life. Yeah. They could go further into the characters' dark places. They could, but I don't think we're going to go there. This has a very lighthearted, I think it's more positive, this series, than anything else. I don't think we're going to go into anything, dark, but it is supposed to be kind of cathartic, I think, for some of these characters, to have them work some issues out. And it's actually it's a nice story. I'm digging this, and it's just weird enough to keep my interest on things. I don't know where it's going, and I kind of like that. I don't like being able to see a couple of moves ahead. Yeah, exactly. Basically, grow as people. Exactly, Ace of Spades. And that's what everyone needs every now and then. I loved also Fredwyn talking about. He says, "Yeah, the longest heterosexual relationship I ever had was 3 weeks," and how he put it was a lot of texting, a date, and just a lot of texting. And I'm like, that's not really a relationship, but sure, okay. And even Janice was like, sure, a lifelong relationship like what Lev and I had, or the 3 week relationship that you did, kind of thing. And she just kind of rolls with it at that point, which, yeah, was kind of odd. And he even mentions growing up, how his mother plied him and his brother, as he put it, with sugar, salt, and animal products, and how his brother is now obese, but he is okay. He has a lot of self discipline that he works through. But yeah, he is an interesting person, a very interesting person. Just when Trace says maybe he treated the person as a system to be adapted. Yeah, he does treat people as puzzles to be solved. He really does. And that's one of the things that he's trying to get over. As you can see, when he's praying, he even says, help me understand my teammates better, so that it helps me. And he wants to be this other person. You can see it, and it's just his mind is just kind of it's overreacting to things. And he even says to Janice a couple of times, he goes, I'm doing it again, aren't I? I'm doing that thing again, aren't I? And you can see that he doesn't want to be this kind of paranoid person. He doesn't want to even be perceived as that, but he can't help himself. So it's just who he is. Again, it's the whole thing with the scorpion and the toad. Why did you do it? It's in my nature. That's what the scorpion tells the toad. Yeah. So good stuff. I'm like I said, I'm really digging the series. Hopefully everyone else is as well. Um, Definitely looking forward to more Clara stuff. The Clara stuff is fun. When we had, Simone's episode going through Fishtown and everything, that was a lot of fun. It really was. And I'm hoping we get to learn more of her background about who Clara is. And I'm sure we will. And I'm sure we're going to learn who Octavio is at this point too. We have, what is it, 8 episodes, I believe, of this. It's either 8 or 10. I can't remember offhand. Let me take a quick peek and I can tell you for sure, because why not? Oops. They can hear me all typing and stuff. And okay, there we go. Uh, There we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 episodes. There we go. Excuse me. We get 10 episodes altogether. And that's going to be interesting. I like that. Ace of Spades says, After episode 3, I wasn't even sure that Clara even existed, but now I'm back to that she is." Yeah. I don't know if she's a real person either. I don't know if she's made up or just for this, game, or if she's a real person either. Although the VR stuff was kind of amazing that they culled people's Facebook pages essentially and made these VR reality things for different people that maybe were in the audience. They were playing a game of numbers at that point. That's kind of amazing to mine that much data to make a virtual reality that someone in the audience might be there, to do, and that was amazing. But yeah. So, excuse me. Oh man, what do I got going on? Tomorrow is going to be Project Blue Book. It is going to be the penultimate episode of Project Blue Book before the season finale, which is going to be next week. Wednesday and Thursday, I'm off. Friday is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Saturday is Saturday Morning Blast Off, where I take the genre news of the week and talk about it and anything else that you guys want to talk about genre wise. And Sunday is Westworld episode 2. And then we come back around again to Dispatches from Elsewhere on Monday. Exactly. You can check out the schedule at suspendedfanimation.com. All my links are there too. So if you're interested in all the links, go to suspendedfanimation.com. Everything is there. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video at the very end of this video. You'll see a video up here. You'll also see up here is going to be Westworld. So it's going to be up there. And like Penn says, hit the like button before you go. Don't lick it because, we're all under quarantine now anyway. And you don't want to lick it. Maybe, use an elbow or something like that and hit the like button, or I don't know, use a gloved hand and hit it and take the gloves off, burn the gloves, and then, make sure you wash your hands afterwards, something like that. No, I joke about that a little bit, but yeah, do be careful out there. I think I got the last couple of, I got a bottle of milk today, which I was jazzed about. Yeah, you can't even trust the mail now. Actually, they irradiate the mail, Josephine Tracy. Um, so yeah, if you ever wonder why sometimes the plastic windows on your mail is kind of looks like it's been burned, it's because it actually has. It has been it's been irradiated. They've been doing that for quite a number of years now. Ever since the whole anthrax thing, they irradiate mail now. There's no lasting effects to it. You're not going to get cancer from your mail, but yes, they do irradiate your mail because of anthrax. The whole anthrax scare that happened. Yeah. Lots of fun things that you learn looking over the internet. Uh so with that said, I'm gonna let you guys go for the night. Thank you, all you agents of nonchalance out there. And I will see you tomorrow for Project Blue Book if you are so inclined to join me for that. It's a good show. I actually like Project Blue Book. It's really good. So thank you everybody who joined me tonight in the chat. Thank you if you made it this far in the video. And I will see you tomorrow for Project Blue Book. Until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may not be able to sleep for a couple of days because your mind's racing so much and no one wants that. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe out there, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night.